Football and cinema have not been easy bedfellows over the years. Mostly that's because sport rarely translates well onto the screen, and also the sort of drama felt inside stadiums is nigh on impossible to capture in a script. Basically, in football, you care way too much about something with no actual stakes, whereas films desperately try to create those stakes for you to squeeze a fraction of the same emotion out. But from World War II epics to shocking modern documentaries, football has crept its way into all manner of movie moments. Sometimes it's the central focus and fans will pile into theatres to try and relive their Saturday passions, and others it's merely the window dressing for, and I can't believe I'm going to say this, literally a remake of Die Hard with Dave Bautista in it. My name is Adam Cleary, and these are the 10 greatest football films ever made. Number 10, Escape to Victory. Gonna get this one out of the way early because otherwise I'll have your dad in the comments demanding to know where it is. Better than The Great Escape, son. Bobby Moore's in it. Proper player, him. And it's got that Pele fella, you know, he's the one that does them pills your old man likes. If you're wondering where Shaolin Soccer, Air Bud, Bend It Like Beckham or Mean Machine are in this list, consider this their spiritual spot. Anyway, the premise here is that the Allies are captured by the Nazis and, for reasons that are never made abundantly clear, have to play them in a glamour-friendly in Paris. Michael Caine, yep, guides his ragtag team of Pele, yep, Bobby Moore, yep, Ozzy Ardiles, yep, Sylvester Stallone, yep, and half the Ipswich Town first team, yep, against the highly drilled forces of the Reich. Not to spoil the ending, but legend has it that Stallone had it written into his contract that he had to score the winning goal. Sure, fine, makes sense until you realise that he's actually cast as the goalkeeper. A hasty rewrite ensued and the climactic scene becomes a penalty shootout, and Sly got to quite literally save the day. Number 9, Bobby Robson, More Than a Manager. Yes, I'm including documentaries. Football is a brutal business, you see, with little room for either sentiment or sportsmanship. But in this documentary, written and directed by Gabriel Clark, the world finally gets to see a definitive and legacy-defining account of the late Sir Bobby Robson, one of the sport's most inspirational, generous and warm figures. Featuring interviews with Jose Mourinho, Gary Lineker, Ronaldo, Pep Guardiola, Paul Gascoigne, Alan Shearer, Alex Ferguson and archive footage of Robson himself, it paints the picture of a man whose influence in the game might never be fully recognised. In part, it's beautiful, in part, it's poignant, but the whole way through, there's a real weight to this idea that the man was way more than merely the sum of his accomplishments. What he achieved at Barcelona, Newcastle, Ipswich and with England have defined him in football folklore, but as the title suggests, he was considerably more than just a manager. Number 8, Final Score. Right, so Final Score is Die Hard set inside a football stadium and showcases Dave Bautista as legitimately the best pure action heavyweight currently available for less than the cost of Dwayne Johnson. That it somehow manages to successfully match this absurd premise is honestly one of the greatest filmmaking achievements of our generation. I shall rewind. Dave is a former United States Army person of generic description visiting his dead best friend's family in London. Seeing himself as the adoptive father figure to the daughter his pal left behind, he takes her to the evening's West Ham United game. The daughter, being as she is a British teenager, is primarily just there to try and get drunk and fingered. But Big Dave hopes to get her to open up about her trauma instead. Then, lo and behold, terrorists take control of the game, seal the stadium and set about trying to find a hidden political figure somewhere in the crowd. Bautista, not really caring to catch the game, sets out to stop them. Oh, and at full time, a bomb is gonna go off or something. Honestly, it's amazing. Number 7, Mike Bassett, England Manager. Weirdly, Mike Bassett, England Manager is the sort of film that could only possibly appeal to die-hard fans of the beautiful game, but is written entirely in the manner of, this is what non-football fans think football is actually like. The result is a mess, but a brilliant mess. Okay, so the stage is set. A dreadful England side have only just scraped through World Cup qualifying and find themselves heading to the tournament without a manager. None of the actually good candidates want the job, so the only man the FA can turn to is Mike Bassett, a no-nonsense latter-day throwback to a time of simpler football and 4-4-2. There are a million winks and nods to the English game's biggest characters like Beckham, Gazza, Pierce, Seaman, all of your faves, as well as some brilliant footballing jokes. Some of the gags have not aged brilliantly in hindsight, but the core premise of just how ridiculous international football is holds as strong as ever. Number 6, the Two Escobars. Two men who share virtually nothing but the same name, and yet their lives both intertwine to tell one absolutely breathtaking true story. You will no doubt have heard the first one, Anders Escobar, whose own goal at the USA '94 World Cup led to Colombia's shock early exit and was, as a result, murdered for it. But Pablo Escobar, a man who died months prior to these events at the hands of the police, had an indirect hand in his namesake's killing. Pablo, you see, was a drug lord and used Medellin-based football team Atlético Nacional to launder his money. One of his players, the aforementioned Anders, was simply a victim of bad luck with his own goal, but the money some of Pablo's business associates had riding on that game meant that they sought their vengeance in blood. A startling true story that combines both of the now infamous tales into one jaw-dropping documentary, The Two Escobars shines as yet unseen light on one of South American football's darkest ever chapters. Number 5. Goal. Being a professional journalist, and don't laugh, this channel literally pays for my mortgage, I have to put aside all my obvious bias and unshakable conviction over this film and slot it snugly in at number 5. However, Goal is obviously the greatest football film ever made and would be in the number 1 spot of any list where my heart was allowed to actually sing its true song. Telling the tale of Santiago Munez, a Mexican immigrant working dead-end jobs in California with dreams of one day playing football, the film is set in the glorious People's Republic of Newcastle upon Tyne. It shoots the football scenes almost perfectly, and the culture shock it depicts between sunny USA and the gritty northeast of England is a borderline work of art. It endures now arguably as the best feature film to actually document the Premier League in any significant way, with Munez quickly rising through the ranks of Newcastle United alongside a number of the club's real players and the fictional Gavin Harris. Filmed in part in front of the 52,000-strong faithful at St James's Park gives Goal a genuine feel that few other films have ever since matched. Number 4. Green Street. Where do you go after the entire world has known you as a diminutive halfling who journeys to a make-believe mountain to throw some jewelry into a haunted volcano? Well, if you're Elijah Wood, you do a fish out of water football gang violence film. Because obviously. Green Street, or Green Street Hooligans as it had to be titled in Wood's native America, tells the tale of a Harvard University student who finds himself caught up in a turf war between fans of Millwall and West Ham United. Oh, and he was expelled for being caught with cocaine, although it wasn't actually his, and it's quite complicated. The film, like the violence it depicts, has virtually nothing to do with football at all. Rival gangs fight one another under the thinnest pretense that it's connected to sporting rivalry. This is expertly encapsulated in the unspooling brutality of the world Wood gets dragged into, and both he and Charlie Hoonanahan turn in surprisingly gritty performances as a result. Number 3. Fever Pitch. Nobody had ever perfectly captured what it meant to be a football fan until Nick Hornby's book Fever Pitch managed it entirely. The passion, the obsession, the fear, the everything, all of which made up supporting a team in the business end of the 20th century, and all of which made up this novel. The film adaptation took a slightly different approach, specifically putting the love story front and centre, but still just about pulled off the same trick. Set during the now legendary First Division Championship win for Arsenal in 1989, Colin Firth leads an all-star, at least in hindsight, British cast as a die-hard fan who absolutely lives and breathes his beloved Gunners. Both his job and his love life are secondary considerations to him, and the fortunes of his team matter more than any of it. Much like that season itself, the movie builds to an enthralling conclusion that I'll not spoil for you here. It's not quite as stunning as Michael Thomas's last-minute goal in the now legendary 2-0 win at Anfield, but it's pretty close. Number 2. The Damned United. Straight up, the story depicted in The Damned United is not even remotely close to the truth, but it's powerfully entertaining nonetheless. In short, Brian Clough was everything that English football needed. He was progressive, he was forward-thinking, he was bold, he had a huge personality and dragged unfancied Derby County to unprecedented glory. At the time, Leeds United dominated the game, and the rivalry between the two still persists to this day. At the heart of it was the personal animosity between Clough and his counterpoint at Ellen Road, Don Revie. The dramatised version of events in this film, which focuses on the disastrous 44 days when Clough was put in charge of Leeds United following Revie's departure, has been wildly pulled apart by everyone who was there. But still, the way it plays out on screen is brilliant. As a time capsule for the story, as well as British football as a whole, it's a remarkable achievement. Cole Meany stars as Revie, but Timothy Spall, Jim Broadbent and Stephen Graham are all excellent in their roles. Michael Sheen, however, puts in a star turn as the egomaniacal Clough, and the whole thing is arguably worth watching for his performance alone. Number 1. One Night in Turin. Even now, nearly 30 years after the fact, no singular night better encapsulated English football's essence quite like the semi-final of the 1990 World Cup. Here was a team that had been battered from pillar to post by their own press, a manager allegedly one more bad result away from the chop, and an entire fan base that had just stopped believing in them. But in football, you're only ever a few results away from either elation or oblivion, and a few steely, gutsy, ferocious performances saw them sit on the precipice of their first World Cup final since 1966. Standing in their way, the old enemy and one of the tournament's favourites, West Germany. What followed across those 120 minutes and subsequent penalty shootout would define everything about the England team for generations to come. The hope, the tears, all those oh-so-nears. One Night in Turin tells the story of England at the 1990 World Cup, but all framed around their eventual date with destiny in that semi-final. It's an absolutely staggering insight into the fractured state of English football and the emerging personalities who would pull it all together. So there you have it, those are the 10 greatest football films ever made, read to you by a man who was genuinely serious about truly thinking goal should have been number one. Let us know what you made of it all in the comments below, and of course don't forget to like, share and subscribe. In the meantime though, thank you so much for watching. I have of course been Adam Cleary, and I'll see you soon. Goodbye.